the speed of a sprinter, the dexterity of a rock climber, the contortions of a championship diver. To the naked eye, these amazing skills can sometimes be lost, but with action photography, each thrilling moment can be captured forever.
You have to find, focus, compose, expose, calculate, and distill the moment to its essence so that you can translate it from a three-dimensional object that's moving to a two-dimensional object that's not. Yet you need to convey the power and the speed and the emotion and the intensity of the moment. Otherwise, you fail.
During this video, we'll take a closer look at how to obtain unforgettable action photographs.
Well, good sports photography, I think, gives them an illumination of the defining moment of the game or competition or the unusual vantage point, some poetry in motion. Combination of emotion and emotion come together. The camera and the film combination can freeze a moment in time. Video can't do it, human eye can't do it. You can take somebody to a place where they can't otherwise get.
Good. All right, go back up, go back up. The simple act of taking a picture can get enormously complicated. The thing that you want to go back to as your touchstone and rely on always is your equipment. You don't want to have to worry about that in the field in addition to everything else that you're worried about. And that's what I've always found with Nikons. I've been a Nikon user since I started in school.
An action photographer typically has three main options which relate to movement: freezing movement, blurring movement, and a combination of the two. All of these effects can be controlled by shutter speed. Shutter speeds between about 1/30th and 1/250th of a second are the most commonly used for handheld work. But because of the longer lenses associated with sports photography, shutter speeds in excess of 1/250th of a second are recommended. The resulting image of a moving subject is similar to the human eye's response to the scene, a mixture of blur and frozen detail. The exact amount of blur depends upon the speed, distance, and direction of the movement. The first option a photographer has is to freeze movement with a fast shutter speed or flash. The result is a sharp, highly defined picture. If you wish to freeze movement, a fast film such as ISO 400 and a fast shutter speed such as 1/250th or a 500th of a second are essential.
What I want to do is, you're going to find a space up there, jump off. I'm going to follow focus with you. With landing. I'm not so much interested in the landing as I am the takeoff.
It's a flat landing.
Okay, so take as much of the sugar
Right.
snow as you can and put up there so it just explodes right before you get up there.
You want me to be stretched out when I'm leaving
I
the
want,
lip,
when you
or?
hit, I want as much body language as I can. So if you could hold the tail, if you can arch, if you can do this, anything that you could do that would accentuate it would help me. I know it's kind of hairy up there.
Oh, that's...
All right,
All right, cool.
here we go.
I'll grab the tail.
Great. So what I have here is Steve taking his snowboard off the jump, and a lot of powder is going to shoot up. I want to be able to freeze all the powder. So what I'm doing is taking my flexible program and increasing my shutter speed up to 1000. There, the corresponding aperture will lower, giving me the correct exposure. Here, what I need is a fast shutter speed and little depth of field.
Another way to stop motion is through the use of high-speed flash sync. Available in select Nikon cameras and speedlights, high-speed flash sync allows you to use fast shutter speeds and still sync with the flash.
Rollerblading is a really hot sport right now,
and it moves very fast, and it's a real city sport, so working in New York was a natural thing to try to do. I was trying to be ready for anything, basically, because I would anticipate the rollerbladers doing all sorts of stunts. What we were trying to do up at the top of the ramp is look directly into the sun, which is traditionally a no-no, but when the rollerblader would come up and do the stunt, I was able to pull the camera to the side, pull the flash down here, light the rollerblader from below, and draw the exposure down around the sun via shutter speed. My shutter speed was used 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000 in a second, and it worked out really well.
The second method is intentionally blurring the image to emphasize movement. A blurred object often brings a picture to life, since it creates a sense of motion and speed. The slower the shutter speed on the camera, the more blurred and undefined the image will become.
When we were in the roping arena, there was some constraints visually going on there, and that was, the background wasn't really interesting to me, and so there's a couple of different ways to deal with that. To me, that seemed like this is the place to use a slow shutter speed. So we were using shutter priority, and we were varying our shutter anywhere from a half to a 15th, sometimes a 30th of a second. And so we'll get different degrees of blur with all those different shutter speeds, and then the camera, of course, is following you by changing your f-stops and compensating for your exposures.
I wanted to create an image where I could capture the energy of running. Not jogging, I mean running. The intensity of a runner. So I approached this shot with wanting to make a blur out of the background while keeping my runner sharp and capturing what was on the runner's face, the determination of her run.
Panning is the third creative option. Panning means moving the camera and following the subject while firing the shutter at the same time. Provided this is done at the right speed, the photographer will record a sharp subject against a blurred background, a very powerful effect. It's difficult to lay down rules for this technique, since so much depends on the shutter speed and direction of the movement relative to the camera. Close objects appear to move faster than objects farther away. Focal length of the lens also affects the speed of the pan. For most sporting events, shutter speeds between 1/30th and 1/125th work well. For a stronger pattern of blur, choose a viewpoint which gives a mixture of highlight, shadows, and color in the background. If using a manual focus lens, be sure to pre-focus the lens. Then frame up the subject when it is still some way off and begin to pan smoothly. Release the shutter as the subject passes, continuing to pan in one continuous action. You can obtain further image abstractions by moving the camera in a different direction from that in which the subject is moving. When using panning techniques or slow shutter speeds, it's important that you try several different shutter speeds for the best results. Nighttime action photography also lends itself to unique effects. With an exposure of several seconds, you can create all sorts of effects with movement. In rear curtain sync, for instance, the flash fires at the end of the exposure. This feature can create an effect of flowing light, with the subject frozen at the end of the light flow. Another method is to use an open shutter and series of flashes to record a sequence of positions, often called stroboscopic or repeating flash. This would be ideal when photographing a dance routine or golf stroke, for instance. In all cases, ultra-fast reactions on the part of the photographer are crucial.
I had had this idea sort of rattling around in my head for a long time to do a reflection shot on a motorcycle at speed. The idea was I'd be on the back of the bike and I'd photograph not the driver of the bike, but his reflection in the rearview mirror, at the same time extending the shutter speed so that you'll get tracer lines of nighttime lights and traffic and all that type of thing blowing by. So what we tried was an SB25 clamped onto the handlebars of the bike, and I'm on the back as the passenger on the bike, and I'm shooting over the driver's shoulder, past his helmet, into his reflection on the handlebar mirror. In terms of syncing the camera and strobe, I chose rear sync, which means that the strobe will fire as the shutter is closing, as opposed to when you initially open the shutter. And that generally when you're dealing with a moving subject will produce a more natural kind of tailing effect or motion effect, because you've got tracing lines of highlights from the traffic, etc. And that's all blowing through the frame of the photograph, and then as the shutter closes, the strobe goes off and renders the image of the driver in the mirror sharp.
A fast, continuous motor drive is essential when photographing sports or rapid movement. But you shouldn't rely on the motor drive completely. Don't let a motor drive usurp your own sense of timing. There are two distinct ways of using motor drive: single frame advance and continuous frame advance. With the control set at single frame, the motor drive advances the film after each shot. The alternative is continuous advance. In this mode, the camera will keep firing as long as you keep your finger on the shutter release. With most SLR cameras, settings usually range from 1 to 4 frames per second. However, with the advanced Nikon F5, you can capture up to 8 frames per second. And when used in tandem with a second F5 and hooked up with Nikon's Photo Secretary, you can actually record up to 16 frames per second. You might think that at its fastest automatic setting, a motor-driven sequence will give at least one definitive dramatic picture. But that's not always so. That's why it's so important to research the event beforehand and make sure you can identify a suitable viewpoint. Nikon's advanced autofocus technology is designed specifically to keep up with the speed of motor drives. The Nikon F5 features a 5-segment AF sensor. These sensors cover the center, left, right, top, and bottom of a wide-area cross-type array. In dynamic autofocus mode, you select the sensor that best suits your composition. As the subject moves or changes position, the F5 automatically switches sensors, focusing on your chosen subject, so nothing escapes. Select Nikon cameras offer 2 specific autofocus systems: a wide area system and a spot autofocus system. In a situation where the subject is off-center, moving quickly or moving erratically, choose wide area autofocus. The wide area system is highly flexible because it covers a wide area of the viewfinder. A subject moving rapidly from side to side, back and forth, or even in many different directions can still remain in the wide area of focus detection. With spot autofocus, a narrow, centered area of the viewfinder defines the precise area of focus. This is better for stationary or more predictable subjects where you want to focus selectively, or use spot autofocus when a subject is strongly backlit, when a subject is obscured by an object in the foreground, or when a subject is considerably smaller than the wide area focus brackets. In either of these autofocus modes with select Nikon SLRs, there exists another exclusive Nikon advancement: focus tracking with lock-on.
When autofocus first came out, I was one of those die-hard pros that stuck with manual focus for a while. And I tried autofocus a little, and I tried it a little more, and I kept finding more and more situations where I could use it. And as autofocus systems improved, I found that I could use it on fast-moving subjects, such as the ones we found with the kayakers.
Once the subject is moving toward or away from the photographer, the camera calculates its precise position at the moment of exposure. The system then tracks the subject, calculating its final
That's
distance
looking
between the
great.
time you press the shutter release
Oh,
and the
yeah.
time it takes place. Focus tracking is ideal for capturing fast-paced action.
The focus tracking on this is really working well. I can see it just frees these guys in as they come towards me with this long lens. And I could never do that by hand. No way. That was really good. I mean, the focus tracking was coming right in and I could see the images being sharp. Looked great.
Most photographic disciplines require the use of a variety of lenses. Action photography is no exception. Some situations call for long telephoto lenses on tripods, while others are best handled with wide-angle lenses or zoom lenses.
I was being towed behind the boat very close to the wakeboarder as he was doing his stunts. I think you've seen a lot of those kinds of pictures shot in a telephoto way from the moving boat. What I was trying to do was establish a different angle, a wide angle, almost directly underneath him as he flies through the air doing his various maneuvers. And what I was trying to do there was fill it with flash and do it at a very high shutter speed so I would stop his motion.
Use a wide-angle lens when you're shooting on the run
Great.
and there's no time to focus or compose carefully.
In order to get both foreground and background, I use a 24mm wide-angle lens. And that way I could be quite close to the bicyclist and I didn't have to use a lot of flash output. And it allowed me to have the cyclist complete and full with space around the bicycle in the frame and yet the whole landscape all in the same picture.
Nikon also offers a range of ultra-wide-angle lenses. Ideal for capturing expansive scenes, an ultra-wide-angle lens also creates a striking impression of three-dimensionality by stretching out the space between the foreground and background. Telephoto lenses are recommended when you want to pull in a distant scene. These lenses allow you to create dramatic frame-filling shots where the subject stands out from the background. You can even control background and foreground blur for striking portraits. Nikon also offers the widest range of super telephoto lenses for the ultimate in action photography. Nikon Zoom Nikkor lenses are ideal when convenience and versatility are required. These lenses allow you to quickly change focal lengths without ever having to switch lenses or alter your shooting position. Made at Nikon's own glassworks, all Nikon lenses offer unsurpassed image quality that consistently sets the standard for excellence in optics. A visually exciting photograph is often the result of a combination of factors coming together at one time. Perhaps the most important factor in capturing that special moment, though, is anticipation. Composition, camera position, and timing will all come together when you anticipate and plan the shot ahead of the action. Setting the exposure in advance is one way that you can prepare for a shot. When using manual exposure, set the exposure first, then let the action come to you. Or you can use one of Nikon's automatic exposures with matrix metering. This way, the matrix does the evaluating for you.
Okay, what I'd like to do is this. I'm gonna give Alan the cue to come. That way, just before you come over, I'll be ready and prepared for you to pop over. Okay, I want you to come over right there right where you are. That's perfect. Right by that little lip. Really looks good. 1, 2, 3.
We're on this college campus and I saw this sport they were playing called Ultimate Disc. So I saw them practicing the sport. The guys are jumping in the mud, they're flying over one another. So I wanted to shoot it in a totally different way because most people only get the opportunity to shoot it on a sideline. So I arranged in a practice for them to work for me in these drills.
An understanding of the sport will help you better anticipate the peak of the action. It will help you select key moments. It will also help you select suitable viewpoints.
If I have guys like that, that's a really cool way to shoot that forward. All right, so let me, Jake, just give me something to lay down on, and then I'll be here, and you guys, if you hit me, you hit me. We're just gonna try to make it so something converges above me and we can incorporate these clouds.
Try to select a viewpoint that makes the most of the lighting and keeps the subject all on one shallow plane. When composing the picture, anticipate where the athlete or object will go. Wait until the subject is at the apex of its action before pressing the shutter release. The decisive moment may not be an obvious culmination of activity, but rather a pleasing arrangement of elements in a scene, like an expression or pose. Action photography can be doubly exciting if you are taking part in the activity at the same time. This added sense of involvement adds more drama and vitality to the photos. Hang gliding and kayaking are a couple of examples of activities where the photographer can benefit from becoming totally immersed in the action.
Okay, I'm ready to climb pretty quick. I'm just getting my camera set up. In the old days when I went climbing, I was limited to the photographs that either I could take looking up at another climber or looking down at him, or perhaps passing my camera to my friend and having him taking a picture back at me. And yet, I can take a photograph of myself right here. I've got a camera set up, I've got a modulite with a 3-second delay, so that I can go up into a position that's a hard move here, and the camera will take pictures of me automatically. All I have to do is trigger it with the modulite control, and 3 seconds later, it'll take the photographs of me. So that means that the camera can be in a great position that I've set up with tremendous care beforehand, exactly framed perfectly, apart from where we are now, up on the wall. Now I've got to figure out exactly where my move is and how to fire the modulite and get it in my pocket and make the move in 3 seconds.
There's a nice scene out here with these beautiful green trees in the background and all this white snow and the dogs just glistening right out of it.
Whether you're participating in the action or on the sidelines, try to be original in your work. Sports photography is often concerned with recording fast and aggressive action, but there are other opportunities for pictures outside the main arena. For a different type of sports picture, concentrate on the sideline action or concentrate on preparations for the action. Look for unusual angles to give a different slant to your pictures. Move in closer and look for different views. You might catch a priceless expression or pose.
Okay, that's looking great. Woo! Woo!
As you've seen, producing great action photographs is more than just being in the right place at the right time. It requires a thorough knowledge of the event being covered, an understanding of the various effects of shutter speed, and lightning-quick reflexes. But a little luck never hurts. To learn more about Nikon, look into the complete Nikon School Video Learning Series. All Nikon School videos, including others in the Masters series, are available by calling 1-800-55-NIKON. There's also Nikon World Portfolio Magazine. Subscribe by calling 1-800-NIKON-US. And of course, there's the Nikon School itself, a comprehensive audio and visual presentation put on by professional instructors. The Nikon School visits almost all major cities at least once a year Simply call 516-547-8666 for complete information. We've enjoyed bringing you this special Masters Video edition of Nikon School. We hope the information we've presented will help you start making the world's greatest pictures yours.